Today's video will only be focusing on the blades for these Skorpekh destroyers and the armored-like shell on their back and over their shoulders, as well as parts of the rod the blade is mounted to. If you want to see how I did the copper metals and steely bits, see the link shown in the top right corner now. I did not rehash these steps here because I'm following a very similar formula as covered in the previous videos, and I didn't want to continuously show the same steps over and over again. However, the colors used for each section of these miniatures will be provided in a spreadsheet excerpt shown at the end. These miniatures were primed black with an airbrush and then highlighted with zenithal sprays of dark aluminum and silver, but these steps can easily be done by dry brushing. The Necron Warrior I painted in my Necron Warriors video was done with dry brushing, and in the end you can't tell the difference between that and airbrushing. I decided to start with the shell-like armor on the back, and I didn't really know what color I was going to use, but I had a color in my mind, a slightly more burnished but very light metal, near beige or khaki, but easily distinguishable from the coppery metal of the main body. I select a few colors of speed paints that might work and spread them on thin white paper, as this will give me a good idea what the final color will be. The colors I tested from left to right are Bony Matter, Ochre Clay, Brownish Decay, and Desolate Brown. Bony Matter is a clear winner for what I had in mind. I thin the bony matter down with 1 to 3 parts medium and mix well. I apply this first layer very lightly and then let it fully dry for about 3 to 5 minutes. I then apply a second layer of this same mix in the corners where the armor curves to add a little bit of shadow, as well as along the sides and bottoms of the rods. I then finish off all these metal bits with an edge highlight of Vallejo's aluminum paint. Moving to the blades, I first start with a very light coating of gloss varnish to help ensure I have a smooth foundation for the next steps to come. The gloss varnish will help fill any mild divots or gashes that may be in the model or paint. The next few steps I'm going to show I recommend skipping, as they didn't come out as I hoped and I had to fix them later. I'll still show them as it could be good to see mistakes. Maybe you've had the same idea to try later and this may save you a little time. My idea was to use the speed paints I used to paint the OSL effects to also paint the blade. They are thin and apply smoothly if you do so little at a time. The problem was that, yes, that it's true and would likely work if I were covering a very small area, but because the application of speed paint here is so thin, it dries quickly. So very little blending is occurring and you end up with a harsh transition. And the transitions actually become darker than the second color that overlaps it. Most of the miniatures I paint these days are done so with Liquitex gouache, but I've been primarily using mostly my old army painter Warpaints and Speedpaints for these Necron units because, well, I spent a lot of money on this and I need to make use of it. So I pull out my Army Painter Quick Reference foam block thing that I made and I look for the greens I'll be using that are close to the speed paints. Angel green to match the shamrock green, snake scales for the shamrock green and ghillie dew mix, and then jungle green as the brightest color. At least that's what I planned in my head. I lay these colors out on my wet palette and mix in Vallejo's glazed medium, about 2 parts paint to 1 part medium. I then glaze the darkest parts first, starting with Angel Green, making sure to start where the color blending should occur and ending my brush strokes as far as possible from the next lighter color. When working in between two lighter colors, start from the lighter side and end your brush stroke about halfway towards the darkest color. And then repeat from the other way, always ending your brush strokes away from the other color. I then follow these same steps with my mix of Angel Green and Snake Scales, starting near the end of the darkest green and ending my brush strokes halfway to the lighter green. Then I start my next brush stroke in the lightest green and ending halfway towards the darker green. Doing so helps with transitions of one color to another because wherever you end your brush stroke is typically where the most paint will deposit, at least for acrylics. For the lighter green, which is just Snake Scales with medium, as I decided I would save Jungle Green for an edge highlight, I apply this in the same manner as the darker greens, though this time in reverse. After letting it set for about 5 to 10 minutes to fully dry, I then do it all over again. This is what it looks like after the second full pass. I then repeat these same glazing steps for a third time. I then get crazy and I repeat all the glazing steps again for a fourth time. With everything completely dry, I tried edge highlighting with Jungle Green, but the coverage was awful as it's so transparent, so I swapped a Poisonous Cloud for the edge highlights. I also thin a little Poisonous Cloud with the glaze medium so that it fills the recesses of the blade easily. And this is the end result. I was really nervous about glazing such large blades, but honestly I'm happy with how they came out. I think if I went a fourth brighter green in there, it may have come out a little better. And for the edge highlights, I really should have swapped from the synthetic brush I was using and used my Winsor & Newton size 1, but I hadn't changed my water cup out yet and it still had metal flecks from when I was painting the metallics. This was a mistake as I would have had a cleaner edge highlight had I taken the few minutes to change out my water. I don't use my good brushes anywhere near metallic paints, and I won't even dip them in water that was used to clean brushes used with metallic or texture paints, as this will help improve the longevity of the more expensive brushes. For the OSL effects on the rest of the body, I got a little heavy-handed with the Shamrock Green. I think this color was fine for the smaller glowing bits on the Scarab Swarms and the Necron Warriors, but on these larger miniatures they just look like green circles were painted on, less of a afterglow. So for the future, I'll likely try skipping the Shamrock Green for larger miniatures such as these. And that'll bring this video to its inevitable end. I hope you learned something or inspired to start or expand your own collection of Warhammer 40k's Xenos threats. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and if you like the content of this video and would like to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm Jim with Working with Miniatures. I'm truly grateful for your time, and I bid you a fond farewell. Until the next video.